New finance manager accidentally increases our pay when trying to cut it back. Note the story takes place in the UK, but I changed the pound for dollar to make it easier for foreign audiences to follow. This story goes back a few years now. I worked in graphics design. I was salaried, but was paid to be on call 1 week every month. The company had a long-standing structure of on-call payments, where we get paid $200 a month to be on the on-call rota, and when we get called out, it's paid at around 130% of our calculated hourly salary rate for the time we clock in and clock out of work on a call-out. This worked fine for us, and is important to note for the rest of this story. One day we had a new finance manager introduce himself. He was in his early 20s and had been hired as part of a graduate leadership program. We knew instantly he was going to be a pain because within the first 3 minutes of his half-hour-long speech, he talked about cost and value for money and expenditure multiple times. He didn't even mention graphics design at all, which is what we all did. Let's call this guy Mr. Asshat. To begin with, we gave Mr. Asshat the benefit of the doubt. New guy, new company, maybe he was just sticking to his comfort zone. Nah. Within 2 weeks he'd mandated that all expenses had to be sent to him for approval. Cue queries like, you're driving a Transit, why did it cost you $60 to go 100 miles, and why did you fill up at Shell, Morrison's is cheaper. This eventually led to, I don't want the trucks going home with you, please leave them at work and pick them up. Well, the reason it cost us $60 that one time was that we had 1.2 tons of product in the back and we needed to run the engine whilst the pallets were being loaded/unloaded. Mr. Asshat didn't understand. In his finance textbook there was no mention of logistics. The vans were going home with us was because it had saved 30 to 60 minutes of a commute either way to get a van when we were moving products from customers/suppliers. Again, this was confusing to him, because his textbook didn't say that everybody didn't actually live at the company and had that odd requirement to go to some weird place called home at 5 p.m. Naturally, none of the employees were happy about this arrangement, but it all fell away because of Mr. Asshat's second brilliant idea. Mr. Asshat also decided that we would get our on-call payments docked. A system that had worked since 1988, over 30 years of a perfectly working system, but of course, some idiot has to come along and try to change it. His big idea was to lose 1 hour of on-call. It was an easy saving on paper, since we all claimed one single, extra, hour on-call every week. The way it worked was that whoever was handing over the on-call duty would claim half an hour to get the van fueled and valeted, and whoever was about to go on call would also claim half an hour to take a stock check of what was in the vans and reload as necessary. Every week a different van would go out and, as we had 4 vans, this meant they also all got their monthly clean as mandated by the company. We'd worked this for years, and it was actually the idea of a retired director, who'd previously worked as a paramedic. A weekly van refresh was worth the nominal amount that was paid out to one employee per week, and was also an incentive for being on call. Even if nothing happened, the on-call employee would get the equivalent of a free meal, and the vans would be stocked every Thursday, our on-call handover day, and good to go. During quiet periods the vans, we had 4 of them, all got a run at least once a month so they didn't get flat batteries, and as whoever was on call got that van washed, cleaned and fueled etc., we always had one presentable van 24/7. Anyway, back to Mr. Asshat. So, when everybody heard they were losing an hour of on-call pay, because it's our job to make sure we're ready no matter what, there were a lot of questions asked. Our senior finance manager doubled down. Having been Mr. Asshat's referral into the company, he agreed, saying, you all drive, pick the van up from work. You can load it in company time whilst you're here. You have gate codes, so if you're on call, you will need to take a van from your place of work. Sure. Twat. Time for some malicious compliance. Coincidentally, the next 6 weeks were very busy on call. As mentioned, Mr. Asshat's textbook didn't cover how people don't live at the office. So instead of taking a van home and being ready to go at 3 a.m. when the overnight press has our samples ready, or our client has just published their final design markup that they want reviewed and on the machines for 6 a.m., or, most commonly, having to drive to an event with some extra flyers/bags/lanyards/etc. because the client was overbooked, we were spending anywhere between 30 to 90 minutes commuting to the office to pick up a van, driving to wherever the issue was, sometimes it was directly back, via the on-call employee's house. Whilst we weren't paid fuel mileage for driving to work for our normal hours, we were given the standard 40 cents a mile when we had to drive our own cars outside of working hours. If we didn't want to drive, e.g. the spouse needs the car in the morning for the school run, insurance doesn't cover driving after 11 p.m., car needs a service etc., the company would pay for a taxi. If we were driving one of the vans, we weren't paid mileage, just our standard on-call payment. Mr. Asshat very quickly went from our enemy to our best friend when we realized we'd be getting paid significantly more to drive to the office, pick up the van, and then head to wherever we needed to go. Plus, after the job, coming back to the office and then driving home again. One of my colleagues lived about 60 miles away from the office and, on one occasion, where he'd had 9 call-outs in 1 week, each time having to drive to the office and back, he'd effectively doubled what he'd have been paid weekly. We realized that this was costing the company money, but, hey, them's the rules, so we happily kept up this new routine. The extra driving was a bit of a pain, but the knowledge that we were getting paid extra for it made it a very easy rule to follow. Mr. Asshat probably realized that as we weren't complaining, something must be wrong. He checked and was shocked to find out that his massive saving of about $250 per month, for X 1-hour on-call payments, was instead leading to about $500 of extra monthly mileage payments, and an extra $1,000 in monthly on-call payments. Not to mention that customers were complaining that what was a 20-minute response time was now about an hour, and one customer had noticed that one of the on-call employees would drive past their facility in his car, only to come back 40 minutes later with a van. Then, 40 minutes after he'd left, they saw him driving back the way he came in his car. We'd initially complained about this for a while, but it fell on deaf ears. As soon as our company director heard complaints from the customers though, time for action. Suddenly we were allowed to take the vans home again. Our on-call handover was reinstated. Mr. Asshat was moved out of our team. I was naive, I still am, TBH, so I thought this was fine. However, a lot of the other people I worked with said no, we have our new way of working, that's how it's meant to be. Some people said that they'd bought another car or a bigger car now that they didn't need to park a van at home anymore, so they were unable to take a van home again. I don't believe this was actually true, but we stood behind the point. I worked there for another year and left to pursue my career, but until I left, Mr. Asshat's policy remained. Everybody who worked on call continued to leave the vans at the office, drive there to pick them up, do a job, drop it off at the office, then drive home again. Mr. Asshat disappeared for a while and we never heard about him again. I checked the corporate directory and saw he was missing, so I assume he was shown the door. The senior finance guy was still in the company but had absolutely no say in what we did. He was moved down from client manager to supplier coordinator, which I assume means he's now living his life checking contracts and financial statements. Ouch.